May I call to order the Subcommittee on Employment Amendment Number 2 Ordinance 2018 Commencement Notice. It is the appointed time for the meeting and we have a quorum. According to the election procedures in the schedule to House rules, can we have nomination for chairmanship? It should be made orally by a member, and it has to be seconded at least by one other member orally, and it should be accepted by the nominee. Can we have nominations? Mr. Holden Chow. I nominate Mr. Wong Ching Kwong. Any seconder? Mr. Ip Kin Yun. I accept nomination. Any other nominations? I would have to ask Mr. Frankie Yik to take the chair for the election process. Do we have other nominations? I will have to count 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No other nominations. Then I can stay in the chair. Thank you very much. Do we need a deputy chairman? No. Okay. This is the Employment Amendment Number 2 Ordinance 2018 Commencement Notice. It is very simple. We just need to deal with the commencement date of the ordinance. Can we now invite the administration team to come in? Attending for the meeting, we have Ms. Melody Luke, Assistant Commissioner for Labor Relations, Mr. Raymond Liang, Chief Labor Officer, Ms. Annie Chan, Senior Labor Officer, and Ms. Betty Chung, Senior Assistant Law Draftsman from the DOJ. Welcome. The Bureau, will you take us through the paper? Thank you, Chairman. The Number 2 Amendment Ordinance was endorsed by the Legislative Council on the 17th of May, and on the 25th of May it was gazetted. The ordinance states that the commencement date should be specified by the Secretary for Labor and Welfare. And on the 8th of June, we gazetted the LN 116/2018 to specify October 19th, 2019 as the commencement date of the ordinance. Now it's time for members to ask questions. The commencement date will be the 19th of October 2018. Mr. Andrew Wen. I'd like to ask whether there will be a date for reviewing the ordinance. Ms. Luke. There is none, Chairman. There is none, Chairman. Any other questions? Dr. Fernando Zhang. Chairman, we understand the ordinance has gone through LegCo, and it is gazetted that it should come into operation in October. I'd like to ask why the date was fixed for October. Is there a particular meaning to it? Is it because you need to have lead time to get prepared for implementation? With regard to cases that might be affected by this ordinance, you know that they should not be of a big number. As you know, we are talking about legal consequences from unfair and unreasonable dismissal. You please explain about the date? And secondly, Mr. Andrew Wan asked whether there will be a review of the ordinance. I think that is important. The biggest loophole of the original ordinance was that there should be the employer's consent before the reinstatement notice or re-engagement notice can be issued by the court. I moved some amendments to the bill in order to increase the penalty, so there will be a bigger deterrent. And as far as possible, we give the choice back to the employee. If it is a union leader and if he really wants to be reinstated or re-engaged, then legally he should be given the right. And I said that should be reviewed. I'd like to ask the administration why you have no intention to review the ordinance. Ms. Luke. Thank you, Chairman. At the Bills Committee, we explained the situation to members. The ordinance is the product of many years of discussion and coordination between employers and employees. And now we have this legal framework. At the Bills Committee, we explained that we should allow the amendment ordinance to be implemented for some time before we review the situation. That is why there is no review clause in the ordinance. Dr. Cheung asked about the commencement date. We'd like to explain that this is a piece of subsidiary legislation. It should be tabled at LegCo for scrutiny in the first Legislative Council after Gazette, and it should be subject to negative vetting. And the date specified is such that the Legislative Council should be allowed to go through the entire process, including 4 weeks of scrutiny, and if necessary, there can be the possibility of extension by 3 weeks. We counted the days, and 19th of October will be the earliest for the ordinance to come into effect without impacting on members' authority to scrutinize the ordinance. Dr. Zhang, if you look at the timetable, at the HC this afternoon, we should report to the House, but there is no way we can do that. So next Friday, I will make an oral report. In order to make it possible for the commencement date notice to be passed in the last council meeting in this session, according to the timetable, the ordinance can be implemented the soonest in October. In other words, if everything goes smoothly, I believe the Bureau is moving at the quickest pace. I understand if we go through the entire process, that must be the timetable. Can we go back to Council on the 11th of July? Well, technically, we need an extension. When shall we go back to Council then? Let us try our best to follow the timetable put together by the clerk. Chairman, I don't know who asked for this subcommittee. I did not. But since it's here, I have joined to ask certain questions. I hope the commencement date can be as early as possible. I don't know why you need to have 4 weeks plus 3 weeks, and then we need to wait till October. Sorry, it should be the turn for another member. But Chairman, they have not asked a part of my question. I did not ask why there is no section for a review in the law. I was talking about the policy. The Assistant Commissioner said that this ordinance should be subject to review in due course. What do you mean by in due course? Ms. Luke, why did you not consider this when you drafted the commencement notice? Chairman, we don't have a fixed date because of several considerations. Number one, there are not too many such cases. We need to allow the ordinance to be implemented to take stock of the actual situation, and we think we need to give it some time. That is why it is not possible for us to fix a date for review now. I hope they will have a more specific timetable. Dr. Zhang, the subcommittee is here to deal with the resolution on the commencement date. I have agreed that Mr. Wan and yourself can still ask these questions outside the scope of this subcommittee, but if you want a more lengthy discussion, I would say you should go back to the panel. Or you can liaise directly with the Bureau. No problem. Chairman, about the commencement date, is that the arrangement of the administration, or was it requested by some legislative councillors that we should go through all the 4 weeks plus 3 weeks procedures? Legal advisor, can you comment? Is it that we do not have to use up the 7 weeks? Thank you, Chairman. This piece of subsidiary legislation is for negative vetting. It is a commencement notice. Theoretically speaking, the date specified can be advanced. I can see one difference between the two approaches. The present proposed mode will use up the entire scrutiny period. If there is no amendment, then we would stick to that date. But if you want to advance it, however, if there are amendments proposed during the extended scrutiny period and yet the ordinance has already come into operation, say there is a date, but if we want to propose amendments in the interim, the situation may not be very simple, and members would want to know that this kind of commencement notice is such that if the commencement date carried in the notice is passed, then legally speaking, we would regard it as spent. Then members may not be able to suggest any amendments. Say if the commencement date should be today, as in the notice, then members will not be able to put forward any amendments. But of course, we would call that spent. However, if the date is set for October, then during the scrutiny period, if members want to extend it, and if you want to move the commencement date forward to September or backward to November, you can move an amendment. This is the difference.
And will the amendment be put to the Council for a debate? The amendment follows the ordinary procedure, that is by way of a motion. Whether it's by the administration or moved by this committee or by a member, we have to go through the process, the same process. Yes, we have to go through the electrical procedures. So it's easier to defer the amendment rather than advance the commencement. Theoretically, you can move any amendment, but if you move an amendment for a later date, that will be easier than moving an amendment for an earlier date. Chairman, theoretically speaking, whether it is to advance it or to defer it, we have to go through the procedures. Well, I know that your answer is watertight. That is my understanding, and that's my impression. Mr. Luke. Thank you, Chairman. The commencement date is not controversial, and the FTU will continue to fight for a further review and enhance the benefits or welfare of the workers. Before the commencement, will there be adequate publicity or education? This is a new piece of ordinance, and reinstatement or re-engagement orders are new to the workers. I just want to know what sort of publicity or education will the Labour Department do? If there is no education or publicity, then workers do not know their rights. The unions, of course, will do some, but it's it is the duty of the administration. Will there be APIs, banners, or what? This is a breakthrough in terms of labor rights. And I hope the departments will do the publicity work well. Ma'am Luke. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Luke, for the question. First of all, in respect of preparation, we will work with the DOJ to prepare for the implementation. Much of the work is on the table of the DOJ and also on the judiciary, and also the Labour Tribunal in particular. That's in terms of preparatory work. As for publicity asked for by Mr. Luke, we agree that the ordinance is complicated, is rather technical, and it is not so easy to understand. Therefore, our publicity will focus on the chambers of commerce and also the unions. We will remind them of the details of the ordinance. And through these organizations, some education work will be done. On the other hand, we will also organize some seminars. But let me stress that the complexity of the ordinance cannot be easily explained in 30 seconds. We therefore have to rely on our friends in the unions to help us out. Mr. Luke. So, will you organize workshops and seminars for stakeholders such as unions? And then you will also quote examples, though not precedents. Yet, explaining the ordinance to the public is also necessary. Can you state the concept, say unreasonable, unlawful dismissal, a reinstatement order, re-engagement order? These are rights that you can fight for. Many workers are dismissed, and they cannot do anything about it. How can you enhance the awareness of the workers in terms of their own rights? I think there's much room for improvement. Ms. Luke, he has made the member has made a number of suggestions. So, what is your reply to that? Well, we'll certainly consider Mr. Luke's suggestions. Next, Mr. Wan, your second round. Chairman, when I want to have a follow-up question, but you give the floor to Mr. Cheung. I know there's a commencement notice. I don't want to take up more time. I think in terms of the commencement, I think I still have a question. I hope Chairman can permit that. I agree with Mr. Look that the reinstatement order is something of a common concern. It is not in the law at present. So I want to ask, with regard to a reinstatement order, a report will have to be written by the Labour Department. Is there a time limit for the submission of the report by the Labour Department? And if, say, you need 3 months to provide the report, then the chance of reinstatement will be less. And the second question is on review. There were loopholes, and we pointed them out in the Bills Committee stage. Well, I don't refer to the sum, but you are not able to handle the situation of contracts being renewed 2 years after 2 years on ends. And also, if it is at the end of the contract, then the benefit or the protection offered by the ordinance cannot be enjoyed by the worker. So can you deal with these loopholes? And when would there be a review? In fact, the subcommittee deals with commencement notice, but can you let them answer the question first? Now, as for let me finish. As for the review, date for review of the ordinance, I think the Labour Department should put that on record, and then let the manpower panel to follow that up. And I hope you will raise this with the manpower panel. This is a demand. This is a demand by members. You should discuss that at the manpower panel. Okay? As for today, we are just dealing with the commencement notice. The review and also the loopholes pointed out by Mr. Wan, the Labour Department will have to discuss that with the manpower panel. Okay. Can they answer the question on the time limit for submitting a report by the Labour Department and its relation to the reinstatement? It is really to the practicability of the reinstatement order. Yes, a report by the Labour Department. As for Mr. Wan's question in respect of a report to be submitted by the Labour Tribunal and the court, I think the time limit is to be decided by the chairman of the tribunal. And the chairman will set a date as to when the report will be submitted so as to assist the tribunal in making a decision. Okay, no further questions. Then we move on to the next item on the agenda. I'd like to ask members whether we need to conduct a public hearing on this. If we have, then we really cannot commence the ordinance in October. All right, there is no such a demand. All right, then we can skip that. Well, then let me refer to timetable. Well, our summer recess is coming, and the last LegCo meeting is 11th of July. Theoretically speaking, today, the 29th of June, is the last day for reporting to the House. Therefore, it is impossible for us to report to the House Committee, and we can only report to the House Committee verbally on the 6th of July. Though it is the 6th of July, we can, because it is the 6th of July, we have to ask for an extension of the scrutiny period on the 11th of July at the council meeting. This is the timetable. So we will make a verbal report to the House on the 6th of July, and the deadline for amendment is the 4th of July. Okay. It's impossible to make a verbal reply this afternoon. Can we deal with it under AOB?
嗱，如果係6月29號今日口
If we can make a verbal report, then the deadline for amendment is the 4th of July, right? Then we can go to the LegCo meeting on the 11th, right? Yes, I know that. That's the general way of handling that. If members so wish, yes, that's for urgency's sake. We report to the House Committee this afternoon. Is it possible? I have not read the agenda. Okay, right. Okay, let's do it urgently. The chairman will talk, or rather the clerk will talk to the House Committee chairman. Now you write a few lines. If possible, then this afternoon I will report to the House Committee. I'd like to thank the clerk and the legal advisor. You have given me a very good explanation. Even if we speed up the process, we cannot affect the commencement dates. Okay, then let us report to the House on July the 6th, verbally. And then at the next LegCo meeting, or rather on the first meeting of the Council in October, we will move the motion. So at the first meeting of the LegCo of the next session, we will ask for the extension of scrutiny period. That doesn't affect the commencement date. Okay, so be it. Okay, if there is no objection, so be it. All right. So we've completed our task. So shall we just go through the motion as usual? Ms. Low, can you take us through? In fact, the provision is according to Employment Amendment Number 2, Ordinance 2018-12, appointing the 19th of October 2018 as the date of commencement of the ordinance. Okay, any queries? No. Thank you very much. Well, we don't have any questions, and there is no proposed amendment. So we have completed the task. And we have nothing under AOB, and we don't have the date of next meeting. Okay, thank you very much.